Reserve your right to think, for even to think wrongly is better than not to think at all. In the final centuries of the Roman Empire, when the ancient world stood at the crossroads of philosophy and faith, one woman rose above her age. Her name was Hypatia of Alexandria. Philosopher, mathematician, astronomer, teacher. And in 415 CE, she was murdered in the streets of Alexandria. Her death would echo through history not only as a political tragedy, but as a symbol of the fading classical world. This is her story. A daughter of science. Hypatia was born around 350 to 370 CE in Alexandria, one of the intellectual capitals of the Mediterranean world. She was the daughter of Theon of Alexandria, a respected mathematician associated with the scholarly tradition connected to the ancient library of Alexandria. Theon ensured his daughter received the finest education available: mathematics, astronomy, Platonic philosophy, and rhetoric. According to later sources, she surpassed her father in intellectual achievement. The 5th century church historian Socrates Scholasticus wrote in Ecclesiastical history, "There was a woman in Alexandria named Hypatia, daughter of the philosopher Theon, who made such attainments in literature and science as to far surpass all the philosophers of her own time." This is one of the earliest and most reliable accounts. The Neoplatonic teacher. By the late 4th century, Hypatia became head of the Neoplatonic school in Alexandria. Neoplatonism, inspired by Plotinus, emphasized the unity of the divine, the immortality of the soul, intellectual purification through philosophy. Unlike purely pagan cult leaders, Hypatia taught students from diverse religious backgrounds, including Christians. One of her most famous students was Synesius of Cyrene, who later became a Christian bishop. His surviving letters describe her with reverence. "You are my mother, my sister, my teacher, and my benefactress." Synesius also consulted her on scientific instruments, such as the astrolabe and hydroscope, suggesting her active involvement in applied astronomy. Her scientific work. Although her original writings are lost, ancient sources attribute to Hypatia commentaries on Euclid's Elements, work on Diophantus's Arithmetica, editorial contributions to astronomical texts linked to Ptolemy. Later Neoplatonic philosopher Damasius, in his Life of Isidore, described her as beautiful and modest in speech. She displayed the garments of a philosopher and explained Plato and Aristotle publicly. Her intellectual authority was recognized publicly, something extraordinarily rare for a woman in late antiquity. A city divided. But Alexandria was not a peaceful city. The Roman Empire was now officially Christian. Pagan temples had been closed. Religious tensions were escalating. The Christian bishop, Cyril of Alexandria, had recently risen to power. At the same time, the imperial governor, Orestes, represented Roman civil authority. Cyril and Orestes were political rivals. Hypatia, respected by the elite and closely associated with Orestes, became entangled in this struggle. According to Socrates' Scholasticus, she was accused by some of preventing Orestes from being reconciled to the bishop. This accusation would prove fatal. The murder. In March 415 CE, the hostilities surrounding Hypatia reached its breaking point. By this time, she was no longer seen merely as a philosopher. Rumors circulated throughout Alexandria. Some accused her of practicing pagan magic. Others claimed she used sorcery to influence the Roman prefect Orestes and prevent his reconciliation with Bishop Cyril of Alexandria. In an age when astrology, philosophy, and mathematics were easily misunderstood, intellectual authority could be recast as occult power. The 5th century historian Socrates Scholasticus writes that she became the target of slander. She was accused of being the cause of the political discord and of hindering Orestes from being reconciled to the bishop. To some in the Christian community, her public teaching of pagan philosophy and her independence as a woman defied accepted moral and religious norms. She was portrayed not only as politically dangerous, but spiritually corrupt, a symbol of the old pagan order resisting the Christian transformation of the empire. Then the violence came. Socrates describes how a mob of believers led by a church reader named Peter intercepted her carriage, dragged her into a church, stripped her, and brutally murdered her with tiles before burning her remains at a place called Cinaron. Socrates, himself a Christian, condemned the act. This affair brought no small opprobrium, not only upon Cyril, but also upon the whole Alexandrian church. Later, the Neoplatonic philosopher Damasius would portray the murder as driven by envy, political rivalry, and religious hatred. Modern historians debate the precise mixture of motives: political conflict, personal jealousy, religious extremism, and moral panic. But in the end, the accusations of magic, immorality, and impiety proved deadly, and Alexandria lost one of its greatest minds. The light that endures. Hypatia's life was more than a tragedy. It was a testament to intellectual courage at a turning point in history. As the classical world of Plato and Euclid gave way to a Christian empire, she continued to teach, reason, and advise with clarity and conviction. She believed knowledge was not a privilege to be hoarded, but a treasure to be shared. Centuries later, Carl Sagan revived her story in Cosmos, A Personal Voyage, calling her the last scientist in the ancient world. For Sagan, her death symbolized a civilization drifting from inquiry toward dogma. Historians today offer a more nuanced view. Learning did not vanish with her, yet her story still carries a powerful message. Knowledge is fragile, intellectual freedom must be protected, and the pursuit of truth, though threatened, endures. More than 16 centuries later, Hypatia remains a symbol of reason, courage, and the timeless human search for understanding.
The parting glass